not very far away is this thing known as the Beltline.
So it's right at the edge of the property. There's a bridge directly over to it.
What you're traveling on when you travel to and from your home.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to start at the beginning.
Sure.
The beginning that I know about is when you were a graduate student at Georgia Tech writing a thesis. So maybe take it from there.
I had this idea I was a railroad nut. I liked railroads and would drive around the sort of undeveloped, old disenfranchised part of town where all the railroads are in industrial areas, and saw that Atlanta has this unique loop of railroads around downtown. They were built after the Civil War to expand the industrial base of the city as it was booming during Reconstruction. The industry was getting pushed out of the city, and the railroad companies built these 4 railroads around the city, out in the country at the time. And the city eventually sort of grew up against it and jumped across it. Neighborhoods on one side or the other were very different socioeconomically, racially. People abandoned trolleys for cars. Industry abandoned trains for trucks. Today, by the time I did my thesis, by the end of the 90s, Atlanta had lost 1/5 of its population to the suburbs, but was starting to grow again. And this loop and all of the 4,000 acres of land associated with it you could see it as a real opportunity for change. So the idea was to adapt that old loop of railroads into something else, and that would be a more life-affirming kind of infrastructure than an abandoned railroad, and would incentivize not only the revitalization of those neighborhoods, but the redevelopment of all that urban land. Who knew that we would actually build it? The more people we talked to, the more people wanted to hear about it. This is the summer of 2001, and we eventually sent out a letter with a bunch of maps, mailed it out to everybody we could think of, the governor, the mayor, all the regional planning agencies, the Georgia DOT. Got a lot of nice letters back saying good luck with that, but got a great response from Kathy Woolard. She was on city council, chair of the transportation committee, which is why she got it. She just had this meeting of all those regional agencies saying, what are you doing for the city of Atlanta, which is only 1/10 of the regional population? What are you doing for people who live in the urban core of the region? And they had ideas about moving people from way outside of town into downtown and back home at the end of the day, but not really for people who live in the city, who are more likely to want it, more likely to ride it, more likely to pay for it, have been paying for it for 30 years with MARTA at that time. And a large proportion of people who are dependent on transit to get around, there really wasn't anything for them in any of those plans. And she was just frustrated. She left that meeting literally that day. This letter was on her desk. And she thought, wow, this is for people in the city. So she called us in, and we told her more about the idea. And she asked us to do a town hall meeting in her district, which we did, in a church basement, Virginia Highland. And the neighborhood fell in love with the idea. And then we did a couple more meetings like that. And the more people we talked to, the more people wanted to hear about it. And so that fall, she was elected city council president. And we took the conversation citywide. And literally for 2.5 years, I was doing 2 and 3 meetings a week. And so was she and her staff and a handful of volunteers. And we created this amazing grassroots movement of support for this idea, for this aspiration for our lives that was better than anybody you could see through their car windshield and any plan that the city was offering. Kind of get what's happening now in a way you couldn't before.
Well, I want to ask you specifically about nature.
Yeah.
And I think one of the compelling benefits of this project is it seems to get people outside and connects parks and I wonder if you might talk about that. For me, that's a transformative dimension to this.
Yeah, I think that the opportunity for nature and everything that goes along with that, biodiversity and all of that, is a significant opportunity on the corridor. Atlanta, because it has grown primarily through single-family houses, we haven't invested a lot in parks and public spaces. So you fly over the city and the tree canopy is mostly in people's backyards. It's private space. But as a city grows, it's mostly in multifamily conditions. So the need for more public space and parks is increasingly important. A lot of the land, though, is spoken for. So there are certain things we can do to expand the sort of parks and nature preserves and all that. But also we need to better connect the places that we have and better utilize them for people.
And the Beltline itself will be a kind of linear park, right? I think
it is a linear park, and then it connects all kinds of parks, both large and small, all throughout the city. And ultimately, when it is built out and the network of trails that emanate from it, you'll be able to ride to our river, which is about 7 miles away, and this really significant opportunity for a massive sort of green space along the riverfront that would be connected in through these sort of greenway connections. The point of it to me is just understanding that it matters what kind of infrastructure we build for the way that we live our lives. These questions of equity and affordability and nature and health and economics and community revitalization, it's appropriate for us to be questioning those things and challenging what the Beltline's impacts are. I wish that we would take the same questions to all the infrastructure that we build.